Yo, and welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Monday, July 19th, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Garcia, and joining me is Tim, motherfucking Gettys.
I love it. Is this 2 Mondays in a row that it's me
It's
and
two
you, Janet?
Mondays. We just need a good tagline for it.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
I'm not going to be able to top Tim Tam, but we can find something.
Yeah, Tim Tam's pretty good.
adjacent.
I think
Tim Tam's really
Tim Tam,
good.
we're returning sometime soon. Is it this Thursday? Yeah, this Thursday, baby. Tim Tam. But nah, that's so far away. If I wanted to know what was happening today, Janet, where would I look?
You're already in the right place.
Good.
I feel like I'm blending like previous work experiences, but how was your weekend?
It was.
Right.
It was good. It was good. This is all a lie. This is a ruse. Before the show, Janet asked me how my weekend was, and I already told her everything. And she's like, well, then I'm just going to ask you again at the top of the show. But
Yeah.
You know what? It was amazing. I'm going to come up with a different story this time.
Cool.
I did so much. I was very eventful and productive. So here I am. Very excited to talk about video games with you.
Really cool. Yeah, I had a pretty good weekend too. Did you happen to catch Space Jam? Are you gonna watch Space Jam?
Did we watched Space Jam last Friday, and our review's up on youtube.com/kindoffunny.
Nice. What were your thoughts?
I was surprised at how competent the movie was, especially in relation to the first one. And I think that overall it did more good than bad, but it definitely made some egregious mistakes, including not using, let alone overusing the Space Jam music, because that's the whole point. We're going too far down this line, Janet, of people going back to established properties and being afraid to commit to the thing we love most about them. This has happened with Mortal Kombat. It's happening again with Space Jam. It's like, we all know what we want from it. Just pump up the jams. Come on and slam. That's it.
So not enough slam? Or too much slam?
Not enough slam. Not nearly enough slam. The jam?
Yeah, I was
okay.
I was surprised that it was better than I thought it would be, but by the end I was like, I'm glad this is ending. But I can't even remember the old one. It's been so long, and like at this point I'm afraid to go back. So, it was what it was. But here's what today is. Today's stories include no new Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck avoiding drift, Ratchet and Clank's modernization meaning an easier game, and more, because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily, where each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. If you're watching live, you can go correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. And if you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching Kind of Funny Games Daily. To be part of the show, head over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free, along with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you. MCU in Review returns today as the boys rank the Loki series against all the MCU movies and shows. You can catch it live on patreon.com/kindoffunny or tomorrow on youtube.com/kindoffunny and podcast services. A thank you to our Patreon producer, Blackjack. And today we're brought to you by Purple Mattress, Canva, and Freshly. But Greg will tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 5 stories today.
Bigger session.
That was a really good That's a good That was a good way to kick off the week.
Good job,
Hell
Kev.
yeah. Let's start off with Nintendo saying it has no plans to release another Switch model right now. This comes over from Joe Scrubbles at IGN. Yeah, look, this could have easily been from any other day, but it's from today, so let's get into it. Nintendo has formally denied a report saying that it would see an increased profit margin with the new Switch OLED model, and also said it has, quote, no plans to release another Switch model at this time, as rumors of a Switch Pro continue to swirl. Last week, Bloomberg released a report saying that the OLED model cost Nintendo around $10 more to manufacture per unit than the original Switch, with a $50 price increase at retail that would see a higher profit margin for the company. However, Nintendo's investor relations Twitter account today formally denied the report. And I am going to interject here and say they technically did not name the Bloomberg report, but it is the only report that had that, so it is heavily implied, but they did not at the company or the outlet. The message read as followed. A news report on July 15th, 2021 claimed that the profit margin of the Nintendo Switch OLED model would increase compared to the Nintendo Switch. To ensure correct understanding among our investors and customers, we want to make clear that that claim is incorrect. Before the announcement of the OLED model, multiple reports claimed that Nintendo was working on a more powerful model of the Switch, capable of 4K TV output with the support of NVIDIA's DLSS rendering. The so-called Switch Pro was reportedly slated for holiday 2021. Some have speculated that a new model could still be announced at a later date, another rumor that Nintendo chose to address today. We want to clarify that we just announced the Switch OLED model, launch in October 2021, and have no plans for launching any other model at this time. The piece then continues by mentioning, how rare it is for Nintendo to even address rumors, but also mentions that they used language like this before. Scrabbles writes, in February, Nintendo president Furukawa was asked if the company would announce a new Switch model, to which he replied, we do not have plans to announce a new model. The Switch OLED model was announced just 5 months later. So as much as I hate to be super conspiracy theory-esque, what's your read on this, Tim? Do you buy this? Do you believe that there is no plan for another model in the works?
This gets so complicated because these types of choice words, it's like, I don't think that there is plans to launch a model at this time. That is correct. They're launching the OLED model in October this year. So I don't think we're going to see another Switch this year, right? So that claim is true. What I think is most interesting about this, and I don't know if this is the direction you're taking your conspiracy theory, but Nintendo doesn't really respond to these type of comments. Why did this happen? Do they have their eyes on Bloomberg in a way that they didn't before, right?
Ooh.
Where it's like, this just seems a little bit out of character for them to even react to for any way. And I get that the world's in a different place. And when we start looking at these numbers, a $50 price increase, like, is that actually going to cost that much when it comes to the cost of goods itself? And Bloomberg here is talking about how it should cost $10 more to manufacture per unit. I wonder if that's keeping in mind the rising costs of everything, or just the scarcity of things where it's harder to get. So even if it is cheap, it's still, they need that kind of leeway of the price increase to kind of make up for the difficulty in getting as much as they need. So maybe they're addressing it to kind of like give themselves at least a little more padding for less people to be mad at them. But like, that seems weird. Like, for them to specifically call out consumers and investors in the same kind of statement, it's like, what is the actual point of saying anything here? Because this kind of is just the sky is blue type news story when you really look at just the headline of Nintendo says something, and it's like, okay, but they could say something different tomorrow.
Yeah, I think as far as the investor situation, unlike in addressing the price specifically, I think they really want to get in front of any dialogue around the Switch OLED's cost and whether or not that cost is warranted. I think especially in this era of seeing, other handhelds come into the space and what warrants a certain cost. I think they want to make sure that it doesn't look like they're being greedy with their quote unquote premium SKU when the premium SKU is kind of barely premium. I also think that it's, everyone's very aware that Nintendo is the only company making consoles that doesn't take a loss on them. So I think the idea of them, not only are you not taking a loss, but you're making more of a profit than before, I think that is a rumor can be really dangerous to their brand. And then, so I imagine maybe these situations got, bunched into one thing where since they addressed the price, they're like, well, if we don't address the other rumor, people will notice that we addressed one rumor, but not the other. So let's just put this all together in one pot of rumors and get it cleared up.
I mean, it's kind of bizarre to me because it's like the whole rumors, there's rumors about everything. And why would Nintendo care about this? It's like, why would investors care if it's just a higher profit? That's just a good thing for everyone overall. This thing's selling out, right? That's just the way that the world is right now. Nintendo is selling a new version of the Switch that has a better screen, that does not have better anything, of a console that is now 4 years old. And it is charging $50 more than it's ever cost before, which is just $50 less than some of the next gen consoles, right? At this point, how much is the Series S? Am I totally even missing this? Is it more expensive than a Series S?
The Series S, I feel like this.
That's 300, right?
I think it is 300, right? I think that's the price point of the Series
X.
X.
Insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
But
no, it's interesting because the Series S is the weaker SKU though. It's
okay.
I get all of it. I think it's I want to say I'm seeing 350 bundle on GameStop, but it comes with Game Pass and stuff, and then of course I'm getting all the weird skewed up prices.
Series S is 300 on Best Buy, what I'm seeing right now. So And I know that comparing them is silly in a lot of ways, but I think it's an apt thing to bring up when we're talking about Nintendo doesn't give a fuck. And why would they? Because people are buying it. I bought one. But also I'm the audience for this. I'm disappointed in what the product is. I wish it was better than what it is. Having said that, it's enough of what I'm looking for that I'm going to upgrade to it, but I have the means to do that. And
why do
so
you
do a
wish
lot
it
of
was
other
better?
people.
Why did you want it to be better?
Because I'm a Nintendo fan and I want them to be modern.
But I think, and let me know if I'm off base on this, I think one reason that you want it to be better is because of all the conversation and rumors around Switch Pro.
No.
We've been talking for we've been talking for years. For years, Nintendo fans and Nintendo content creators have asked, what do you want from the Switch Pro? We've been able to build up our dream list in a way that we never really have for any other console because we know what Nintendo does. They don't do modern powered hardware. They're just like doing other stuff, weird stuff. That's who they are. That's who they've been forever. But at least for me, and maybe, for you, it just was totally of your own volition. Having the conversations around Switch Pro is why when the OLED came out, I'm like, well, I guess I can't be mad because they never told me that they were doing a Switch Pro. We were just talking about it and it was heavily rumored. So I think part of this, and I'm sure they're still selling, the Switch OLED well, but I'm also sure there was disappointment in a way that there wouldn't have been disappointment if I wasn't expecting this. Like when the Switch Lite came out, I wasn't like, this isn't what I wanted from a more portable version of it. I didn't have time to really think about that. It wasn't a conversation point. It was just a cool new thing Nintendo put out that was a long excuse.
See that this is what I think is really interesting about this is I find the conversation about the conversation so funny that we're at this point where it's just like people are talking less about what Nintendo's actually giving us and more about who said what and who started what rumors and getting angry at influencers for like creating this thing out of nothing. It's like, in my opinion, that's just not true. It's like Bloomberg reported on this. Like that is a reputable, one of the most reputable sites when it comes to this type of stuff. So it's like, it's not like these rumors just came out of someone's ass. Like they came from somewhere. And more than that, they came from somewhere because they were real and they actually did come from somewhere that ended up changing along the line. But more than that, it's like, it's not like the things that were expected from this Switch Pro are crazy and un-Nintendo like. Like it's not like it's going to make it the beefiest best system ever. It's literally just catching it up to last gen almost. Like we're talking about PS4, not PS5. So it's like I don't think that it's asking too much, and that's why I'm disappointed. Is that there's just certain little things they could have done that would have made this so much better. Like I just want to go around the Lost Woods and have it not stutter. I don't think that that is too much to ask. Like I think that it should be okay in 2021. Right. And when what you brought up about the Switch Lite, we had the exact same thing. I was in a multi-year beef with Jared Petty about will they ever release the Switch Lite? And that was a bet I won. I said, I was like, they're going to release
the Switch Lite.
I mean, it was just the fact that I get to bring it up on a show in July 2019 with Janet Garcia, and it feels damn good. Okay, it feels damn good. But no, I was always saying, I was like, they're going to release a portable only Switch. And he was like, no, that completely is not the point of what the Switch is. And I was like, Jared, you need to remember, this is the Nintendo that put a 3DS out and then called it the 2DS. Like, they don't give a fuck. Nintendo does whatever the hell they want to do. They do whatever makes sense at that time. And I feel like when you look at it, this OLED Switch, to me, this doesn't make sense at the time. Like, it would make sense for them to release something that does have some more type of power boost. Maybe not all of the advancements that were talked about, but like more than what we got for sure. Having said that, I'm a sucker for OLED, so they're giving me that.
Yeah, so then you already have, people in chat mentioned, did you say July 2019 just now?
Yeah, I did.
Everyone in chat's like, it's 2 years behind. And if you're 2 years behind, the Switch isn't that bad of a deal.
That's the thing. You know what I mean? I'm just like Nintendo right now.
Yeah. Like
a little behind the times.
Taking a while to catch up. Speaking of Nintendo and Nintendo comparisons, for Steam Deck stuff, Valve is doing its best to avoid thumbstick drift. This also comes from Joe Screbbles at IGN, who's out there putting in that work. And in case you missed it, the Steam Deck is part of July's IGN First, meaning that you can expect exclusive coverage, coming out about that device. And this is just one of the many details that have emerged from that reporting and that coverage. So here's what they had to say. Quote, we've done a ton of testing on reliability on all fronts, really, and all inputs and different environmental factors and all that kind of stuff, replied hardware engineer Yazan Al-Dahayat. I think we feel that this will perform really well, and I think people will be super happy with it. I think it's going to be a great buy. I mean, obviously, every part will fail at some point, but we think people will be very satisfied and happy with this. Steam Deck designer John Akita added that the parts involved were part of that thought process. We purposefully picked something that we knew the performance of, right? We didn't want to take a risk on that, right? As I'm sure our customers don't want us to take a risk on that either. Steam Deck designer, then I went on to kind of close out those comments. So, Drift, is it a concern for the Steam Deck? And is it something that, well, Tim, did you end up getting a Steam Deck?
I am not the audience for a Steam Deck.
Wow.
I mean, like that's how all this stuff works. It's like I'm a Nintendo guy. It's like, to me, I'm a Nintendo guy and I'm a tech guy. You add that together, I'm going to be in the market for the OLED model. I'm not in the market for a Steam Deck. I'm so excited that it exists because it's going to push the industry forward. I love portable gaming, and I think that it is important, and I love that we are seeing a return to it in a bunch of various forms in different ways, whether it's retro with like the analog pocket, a little more gimmicky and weird with the Playdate, I think it's called. Like, then we of course have Nintendo, and then the Steam Deck, and it's like, this is all very cool. I do think that this Joy-Con drift situation is a huge issue, and it's less of an issue for Nintendo just because you can always buy another Joy-Con, but that's still a big issue for consumers, having to buy another thing, right? Like, that is not a great way to kind of have your products just be kind of the baseline and understood. Like, that's just what the expectations are if you're going to invest in Nintendo's ecosystem. On the Steam Deck side, this does seem like it is a more expensive product. It's a more premium product, at least on the high ends. And I think that this is one of those like non-stories in the way that like they had to answer it this way because somebody asked them. And so it's being reported on. But it's like, I just feel like it's kind of like they found a story from this. You know what I mean? Like, of course, everyone's going to say, yeah, hey, our shit's going to work until it doesn't.
Yeah, I think the until it doesn't is a little bit awkward. I mean, obviously you have to mention that, and common sense tells you that hardware over time, everything fails and everything. It's kind of like how, what is it called? Disk rot, right? Where like all of your disks were like rot over time, but that's not really going to affect you in your lifetime. So you don't really need to worry about disk rot, but it's something that like, if you're in the know and a physical collector and looking to, I don't know, I guess pass down physical media to your, family line or anything like that, sure, I guess. But it's like, it's an inevitability. Like, everything's going to be destroyed. But I do think with like that higher price point, it is a little bit awkward. And in a way, it's like, oh, well, maybe I should wait longer and see how it all shakes out. And that was sort of my justification for not ordering, or not ordering one, because it's like reserving one or whatever, not getting in line to have one reserved. Though at the same time, I'm also like finally feeling the pain of everyone who's trying to get next gen consoles, where I'm like, oh, but if I don't get the Steam Deck now, when I do decide I want it, is that wait going to be an indefinite period? But yeah, certainly the lack of being able to interchange it is definitely cause for concern. And we've seen drift from like other hardware as well. Like, people have reported on like some DualSense drift as well. But again, with that, you can just change that one part. I guess my question is, if this does end up being an issue, do you think it's enough to kind of like stop the handheld in its tracks? Like, is this something that people should be really concerned about? Or is it something that, if it happens, it happens. Maybe it'll be irrelevant by the time it becomes a problem?
I think that this is something we should not worry about at all unless it's a problem with this device. I mean, this reminds me going back to the iPhone 4, and it had the antenna problem, and it's like, and then they fixed it, and then it didn't. Like, that's just how tech works. So it's like, it's a little weird to be like, well, the Switch has this problem, so this thing's going to have it too. And it's like, okay, well, we've had a lot of other devices in our life that didn't have that issue. So we could assume that as well. Like, yeah, definitely keep your eye on it, but I don't think this is going to end up being an issue. And if it does end up being an issue, it will be addressed.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in that same boat. It is a little bit of I don't know if it's a cause for concern for me because it's so speculative. It's like, oh, if you have this problem, but yeah, I mean, I think in general, just investing that much money in a handheld kind of gives me pause. And I know it's basically like a PC handheld, but I'm like, I already did also spend a lot of money on my PC, so maybe that I don't play on very often. So yeah, I mean, I think all these things just help inform people on, what purchases they want to make, what they want to wait on. And, ultimately it's cool that they have had it in mind and had at least a decent answer to give, for that kind of question, because it is going to be on people's mind, for sure. Speaking of things that are on people's mind lately, let's talk game difficulty, specifically as it relates to Ratchet and Clank's modernization. This comes over from Axios gaming newsletter, which was written by Megan Faroukmamesh and Steven Totillo. And if you're not familiar with Axios gaming's newsletter, it's a pretty cool roundup. Like, I really like how they break down everything. They'll like have, their one big thing as their main story, which in this past week was the Ratchet and Clank piece that we're going to talk about now. And they like break it down to like these like really dope and skimmable bullet points where it'll say like, here's the big thing. Here's like what we can read in between the lines of. Here's this other part. So definitely a newsletter I think you should check out if you have been familiar. But let's get into it.
Yeah, Axios, that's a new one for me.
Yeah. It's I feel like, well, I don't want to say they just came out, but I know like Steven's role and et cetera is pretty new there. So, but yeah, they have some pretty cool roundups, including this one, which reads, the creators of the PlayStation 5 hit Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart jettisoned old ideas about game difficulty and even made previously, quote, unthinkable design decisions to help players get through their new game. Its creator told Axios in an exclusive interview. Why it matters. Some game designers are rethinking the virtues of making a challenging game versus those of making games that more people can get through. Quote, we have sort of shed this conventional wisdom that games kind of need to be a hard ass in order to get satisfaction out of it. Rift Apart game director Mike Daly told Axios of his team's new approach to game challenge. Between the lines, Ratchet games have never been the hardest games, but this new one gives players more help. A selection of traditional difficulty settings for all the action in Rift Apart is complemented by an expanded ping and hit system, which offers lost players a nudge toward objectives. Between all the shooting, there are puzzle levels, a series staple, but in Rift Apart, players can skip any with a press of a button. That's something that would have been unthinkable 3 to 5 years ago, Insomniac's Mike Fitzgerald said. The biggest boost Rift Apart gives players comes through the unique PlayStation 5 feature called Activity Cards, which appear on the console's home menu. For Rift Apart, the cards are used to signpost in-game tasks, including missions players can complete or hidden items they may want to track down, except for those bears, by the way.
It's such a dumb decision.
The bears are not available. Were you also personally victimized with these bears? Did you get the platinum on this?
I did, and one of my biggest criticisms of Ratchet and Clank is that the game does such a good job of everything they're saying here of giving you the choice to make the annoying stuff easier for you if you want it to be, except for that one thing. And I just wish there was a little more consistency of being everything is on the map except for these damn bears. And it's like there's nothing fun about exploring maps this big, trying to find these little things and not really having a good way to track what level you already got it in, what levels you didn't. It's like that to me was a very poor design choice and an otherwise immaculately designed game.
Yeah, Kebabs mentions the bears are all on the main path, but even if they are on the main path, if you miss it, that makes it even worse to me, because then if you miss it, you're going to have to like go all the way back through. Like, I think it's still, again, it's weird. The main path is on the main path, right? Like the ping system is also part of aiding you along a main path. But so it's weird to have everything taken care of except for this one thing. It does, it's funny because it's the whole point of this is like, oh, look at all these things they did. This is cool. And here we are like complaining about the one thing they didn't do. But I do find it odd because it reminds me of, Tim, I don't know if have you ever used like physical game guides?
Oh yeah.
Like the little, right? Like back in the day, you get the books from
and all that. Yeah.
Gotta rip the secret section open and stuff.
Of course.
Like there were always those guides that were like, you get to like a boss or like a puzzle or something and they'll say, now it's time to use everything we taught you. Good luck. Where I dropped $20-$30 on it. You better give me the fucking answer. I literally am here for the information. Kebabs also mentioned using the accessibility feature, in the chat to highlight them. So yeah, I think that's also cool ways to like add that too. I mean, I know for speaking of other games that have like these kind of things baked in, like for The Last of Us 2, a lot of people were like, I'm using the colorblind mode specifically to like find things, So I think there are ways to, customize and use things to best serve you. What's your takeaway from this kind of redesign of the game in terms of, not redesign of the game because like they made it and redid it, but kind of, adjusting their perception of difficulty? Like how did their interaction with difficulty change your experience, or did it change it at all? Like what was your sort of takeaway from playing it versus other games in the franchise?
I'm a huge Ratchet and Clank fan. I've played all of them, and this one definitely stood out to me. And a lot of the reason why was this type of stuff. They made really cool decisions that added up to be a great experience, not necessarily any single one of them being this like major standout. But as you were reading this and they're talking about the previously unthinkable design decision, I was like, what are they talking about? And later when it was revealed, oh, they are talking about being able to skip those puzzles entirely. I loved that decision. I love when games kind of like, whenever they switch up their gameplay style on you, it's not always a win. And I think that this game did it well where the puzzles actually were fun and didn't take away from the game too much. Like it wasn't like, in my opinion, the Mary Jane parts of Spider-Man or the Miles parts of Spider-Man 2018, 2017, 2018, doesn't matter. 2018.
Who knows what year you're in at this
I
point? It
know.
was 2019 a few minutes ago.
Exactly.
Like we're going all
Exactly.
over the place.
But I think that the Ratchet and Clank, the Clank missions in this one and the glitch bot thing, like those were fun enough, and they were good to like break up the traditional Ratchet gameplay loop that we had. But I did have a couple times where I was like, because I think you had to beat the game twice to platinum it, or at least it made it easier to like go through and collect some of the things you're missing, or like to level up all the weapons and all that stuff. So as I was playing through it again, I'm like, I already did this. I don't want to do it again. So just having that option just made my experience better of playing the game. And like, I love that these options are just that, options, and they can just enhance the way you want to interact with these video games. And to me, that is the most modern way of looking at game design, is kind of giving the sandbox that we first saw, at least I first really experienced in, things like Mario 64, then being translated into like GTA 3, where it's like, hey, there is a game here, but honestly, just running around is fun. And if you just want to turn cheat codes on and go nuts and get 6 stars and run away from the cops for as long as possible, you just created your own game within a game. As long as you're having fun, that's
That
what
was the
matters.
best game. That's like probably my biggest memory of playing GTA is doing that. Like you get like,
Totally.
and then also like doing the thing where you like, I guess like you kind of save scum basically, where you'll like spend all your money. Like I'd spend all my money on the rocket launcher, and then I'd use the rocket launcher to just like take down a bunch of people and rack up my points, and then I just
Yep.
wouldn't save it. That was like my main, it's
So
like
much
my
fun.
main playthrough when I would boot it up. Yeah, like absolutely. And I think, there's been a lot of conversations around game difficulty and, what it does for the industry. I think the best conversations have been the ones highlighting the ways that it can be positive and the ways it can be creatively implemented. And the other ones, honestly, are not really worth entertaining. But I think the big thing to remember, too, is I feel like a lot of people, we all have our like lines in the sand for how we personally play, like how we like to play our own games. And again, it's about options. You don't have to use it. You can if you want to. And I do think it's funny that sometimes when people are like really against, skipping stuff or having easy stuff because they feel like it's not how they want to play. So for some reason, they kind of impose that onto other people. But like this is the same group that might, use like a trophy guide, use all these other ancillary resources where it's like, okay, at that point, that is your own different version of aid. I think assistance in games comes in so many ways, whether, you were like me and you'd have like me and my brother would switch off playing games like we'd play the same game but different files, and he'd go then I go. It's like that was like our version of like a YouTube walkthrough.
Totally.
Someone would go, we'd figure it out, and then we'd toss it back. So I do encourage you, if you have a little bit of a visceral reaction to this, to think about the ways that you've played games over the years and the ways you've gotten help or had different experiences, and how like that is its own form of those elements. And for someone else, like it might be turning down the speed in Celeste, or making that little adjustment. And I love that trophies are moving away from that too, like not having to have like, that's what stopped me from getting The Last of Us 1 platinum, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to beat this game on hard because I just don't feel like it'll be fun.
And so that's the thing. There's a Daniel Hodder 7 in the chat says, I disagree with Tim. Skipping because it's not fun isn't a good thing. They should have made it fun. I totally agree with you there, Daniel. Like I do think that everything being put into a game, I would much rather less modes than more modes and more things just to add content to a game. And I love that it seems like the industry has been shifting that way, where we've seen more single player only games or multiplayer only games. It's like, yes, focus, make them the best that they possibly can. And even within that, it's like battle royale. It's like, this is a battle royale game. This is an arena game. And like we've seen like Apex Legends kind of have those modes, but only after they've nailed one of the visions do they move on to the next vision to add something different. But I'm not saying that it's the skipping because it's not fun in Ratchet. I think what was great is I did it. It was fun the first time I did it, but redoing puzzles isn't necessarily as fun as redoing combat scenarios. So when I was replaying Ratchet as part of my first experience of playing the game, where it's like I wanted to platinum it, so I did play it back to back, being able to skip it allowed me to just get to the more fun parts because I had already had the fun of the puzzle before. To me, that is good design. That is allowing people to play the way they want to and have fun with the fun things that are being presented to them. But I do think that we are just improving constantly with every major release from these giant studios that are caring about this stuff, both from a modern game design standpoint and from an accessibility standpoint. Those things are helping each other in certain ways, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is creating more accessibility modes for people that need them. And the goal on the other side is to create just more fun experiences for as many people as possible. So I would love to see a world that the colorblind mode and stuff isn't the main way people are finding all the hidden items and stuff in a level. I would much rather, from a modernization of game design standpoint, them figure out a way to do that without changing the look of the game and changing the experience of the game for people that don't need that on a non-accessibility side, right? Like I do think that they kind of inform each other in a way where that was a feature that we didn't have and we didn't know, but the trophy hunters out there are now using it. But it's like, cool, what can we do to do that from a more integrated game side, right? And I think that in a couple of years, especially looking at PlayStation Studios, I think that we're going to see a lot of that. I think that there's going to be a lot, like the game help cards, right, that PlayStation have. Such a great idea that I think a lot of us kind of knew was never going to live up to what it could be, right? But I'm hoping one day it does. Like, I'm hoping those things get better. It's going to take a team of people that really care about making those good, and I don't really have faith that that's going to happen. But I think that the more modes and the more that games can kind of normalize and standardize different functions like what we're talking about, I think those will just lean into better prepared cards that can better serve more people. So we're on a good path going forward here, and I think that Ratchet and the design decisions they made here are fantastic examples. And the reason that me and you were being so negative and bringing up the bear thing is because that stood out. It felt outdated compared to the rest of the things it was next to in this game that I think really is one of the more immaculate examples of game design when it comes to collectathon.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, I love you bringing up the card stuff. Again, people not prioritizing guides comes back to haunt you. I'm just shocked that they haven't, and maybe they have, because I'm not in the studios, so I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And I don't think there's been a whole lot of research into how like the cards and the game help is actually formed. Like, I think we know kind of from common sense that like the studio's involved, but like who's actually putting in the info? Like, I don't think there's been a lot of articles written on it. If y'all know of any, please like link them out, because I'd love to check them out and get more info on that. But it just feels like, can't you just have like a team of like the best regular guides writers just come in like and just figure out how to format it and word it, and they'll know like the stuff that people are going to look up or want to know. Or like, one thing I've been really wanting from cards is I feel like it's not expanded enough as guide help. I'm like, even in games that don't have critical path, I'm like, you can have, tips and tricks, like min-maxing stuff. Like, there's so much unexplored stuff in that. So yeah, hopefully that gets pushed forward. I mean, I think the fact that was part of, hey, here's what you're getting with the next gen experience, does speak to the fact that, as this, our newsletter slip out or newsletter like write up kind of mentions, like, people are changing how they think about the games they want to make and who they want to draw in and who they want to retain. And I think that's really cool, because ultimately it leads to, more people playing and more options to play. Speaking of things that we are going to play at some point, Skate will not be at EA Play, but they do have a teaser, and they dropped it literally 2 minutes before we recorded this. And I'm so excited that we can actually talk about what they dropped. So first, let's talk about the tweet where they announced that they're not going to be at EA Play. They put holy free, shit, presumably, but they just put a bunch of little symbols. It's been a year, and then there's a question mark and a bunch of exclamation points. Emphasis there, it's not mine. What have we been up to? Well, we formed a studio back in January, got a bunch of super talented people to join the family, and we've been working hard on the new game. Now, we know many of you were hoping to see more from us this week, but we're not ready for prime time just yet, and we won't be part of the EA Play live show on Thursday. It's still early, and we are committed to doing this right, which means it's going to take some time. Our number one goal is to not blow it. For you, for us, for Skate, which I feel like it's so melodramatically worded, but the tweet continues to say, however, we're stoked to share a little something with you all tomorrow. And guess what? Today is tomorrow. Time has been weird this episode. Just go with it. Here's what they dropped. They dropped a teaser video. If you could go ahead and pull up that teaser video on the same Twitter account as where that teaser video is embedded. It's about like 2.5 minutes long. And essentially what it is it kind of teases what they've been up to. You see a little bit of the development, some of the mocap, and you see a couple clips of, like, they mentioned, oh no, who's seen gameplay? And they're like, these people have, and they like cut to the people reacting and being really moved by what they see, and it's like, oh, I wonder what they're seeing. And they talk a little bit about character customization as well. And then they have a little bit of an extra hint they dropped. Tim, do you want to read out what that extra hint is?
Well, it's like they go through, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of influencers here, but like these are the skate influencers. These are not just like random people that are like, hey, we're gonna show you stuff and hope you like video games. It's like, no, these are people that have been in the skate community for years at this point, and they're kind of all just making a bunch of mentions. This is to me a perfect type of hype trailer for where they're at in this stage of development for this game. Like, obviously, this game doesn't exist yet, but it exists way more than I expected it to, if I'm being honest, based on the announcement last year that literally was just, hey, we're doing this thing. Like, you guys kind of like forced our hand by commenting on every single video and every single chat for a lifetime for Skate 4. So, hey, we're going to do it, whether it's to shut you up or not. We're doing it. We've seen this already happen with Mirror's Edge 2 back in the day, but now we're doing it with Skate. And I got to say, everything they're saying sounds perfect to me. This seems like it's being made by a group of people that get how important Skate is. You said that it's a little melodramatic to say doing it right for Skate. I love it though. I feel like this is the type of franchise that really holds a special place in people's hearts and in the industry's hearts. And the expectation is that it's not going to live up to the hype. So for them to be like, no, we're really trying to do this and get it right. I love, and having this group of people, like the choice quotes they have of all of them kind of like going through, it really does tease. This is a great tease for this game. And it has two of the people being like, wait, the game is, and it cuts out right before they say what the thing is. And then it cuts to another guy being like, wow, the game's that's interesting. And like, I wonder what that is. Is it free to play? Is it like, what hints are they did that on purpose, right? Like this, everything in this teaser was designed to elicit emotion out of Skate fans. So I'm pretty interested in what that could have been, because it sounds like it'd be a big game changer, because everything else they're talking about is just the thing people loved most about Skate, of like really being able to create your own create your own skater, and just hang out with your friends and have a good time and really just nail that perfect run. And if they can nail that, they've done their job.
Yeah, like, is there something that they, in your mind, did you fill in that blank? I know you mentioned free to play as a possibility, but when they said like, oh, like this is what it is, was there something that you either had in mind or hope will come to fruition from this?
I got to be honest, I am a much bigger Tony Hawk's Pro Skater guy than I am a skate guy. I've always enjoyed the skate games, but like I love Tony Hawk with a passion. So it's like, for me, I just want this to be really high quality, and I just want them to like nail the essence of what Skate always was, which was at the end of the day to me about community. It was less about like this like crazy campaign and story mode, and they had some fun moments here and there, but it was just about how fun it was to play and how fun it was to play with your friends.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's kind of interesting. Would you like to see this kind of trend continue, like where they have not just the, hey, we're not going to be there, but also have a little bit of a tease? Do you think that lightens the blow? Does it make you like would you have wanted to see this at EA Play, or do you feel like this was the more appropriate place to put it as a, hey, tomorrow we're going to drop a little teaser, they drop this video on Twitter kind of unceremoniously and just leave it? Because I feel like this could have easily also been at EA Play as well.
There's a lot of interesting things. Our next news story, we're going to be talking about the new Tom Clancy game that Ubisoft announced in a really weird way, where yesterday they were just like, hey, tomorrow IGN's going to reveal a new game for us. And it's like, why wasn't this at Ubisoft Forward last month during E3? You look at the Nintendo OLED and it's like, why wasn't that part of their Nintendo Direct? There are so many game showcases now, and just with the way that the world is, where everything got condensed, like pushed forward, and then now it's just like this weird hodgepodge of events and ownership of announcements, where more so than ever, every single company is able to just make an announcement on Twitter, and it has just as much impact as being a part of a showcase, because every major news site is covering, like following these people's Twitter accounts and get that information, and it is just as valid. I think that we're still in this, like, that started last year really, but like now we're in this moment where everyone's still trying to figure out what the best route forward is. And so I think EA Play in particular, I'm very excited to see what it ends up looking like later. Is it later this week? It is later this week, because they've stripped so much out of it where it's and so much leaked stuff is expected in it, like with Dead Space, that they're in a unique spot for me where they're gonna give us everything they promised, it looks like. But at some point, and I've been talking about this a lot with the transparency with these showcases, like transparency is important. It always is. But I think at some point when it comes to these type of showcases, it hits a point when you're getting way too transparent. And it's like, okay, when you take away all of the expectations and all the rest, you tell people exactly what they're going to get. That doesn't mean what you're putting out is good. It just means you didn't lie and you did the thing you're going to do. That doesn't get you an A in my book. You get what I'm saying?
Like I did the assignment because I told you I made the assignment and I did. It's like when you
Yes.
now I feel like I'm throwing shade to like inadvertent shade to when you get to make your own project at school, but it's like you decide what it is and then you also grade yourself. And like that's mostly going to be what we give you. Yeah, I mean, I think that is an interesting like take where it is sort of pushing us. It makes it more difficult to, I think, grade or assess like how good I think these presentations are, where it's like, well, it wasn't that interesting, but you told me it wasn't going to be that interesting. So I feel like it was fine. And it does end up, which I think is probably what they want, right? It to be, hey, we did what we said we were going to do with like one or two surprises. I think a good middle ground so far, like I've been cool with how like PlayStation's done there so far, where they're like, this is what we're focusing on. You won't see and B. And then we like see some stuff and there's some things in there that like maybe you weren't expecting, but for the most part, it kind of, runs the course. I think especially for if you have, I think it's a little bit better when you have like a specific game you're showcasing. I think something like EA Play, that falls a little bit less relevant because EA Play is just a bunch of EA stuff. And obviously we know some of the stuff that's going to be there and they usually like highlight a few like notable things, who's hosting, the time and all those things. But since it's not one specific game, I feel like I less want to know what we're getting and what we're not getting because this is like supposed to be your big event. This is like essentially your E3, the post E3 season. And I kind of like it to be a little bit more open-ended. And I guess to like answer my own thing for what I want this in their proper EA Play, I think it's good where it is because I feel like if it was at EA Play, people would be like, oh my God, Skate. And then they're like, really? Like there's nothing here. So I think it would like build excitement and then drop it off immediately. While going into this post, I was refreshing the page like before the show to see if they were going to drop it so we could talk about it. I was like, okay, cool. Here's what they said they would do. Let's see what it ends up being. And, personally, I wasn't, super moved by it just because it didn't really show me much other than like trying to build my hype up for the game. Like it didn't give me anything tangible to grasp onto other than like the trusting the franchise. But I'm like, all right, well, you just told me to do a little something. This is what it was. I wasn't really expecting anything and it wasn't anything too crazy. One last thing I want to ask you before we, toss to our sponsors is why was the entirety of the original tweet in lowercase? Like the post about the game. Is it because Skate is in lowercase? Is that like a brand thing?
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
It was giving me like Tumblr vibes.
Yeah.
Monkey's Tumblr vibe.
That's so funny.
I'm like, what was this like? It seemed, and then I looked at their other tweets. They don't do that on their other tweets. So I don't know. We all know one person like that. Please let me know in the chat if you know someone who puts everything in lowercase. It seems like so much more work. You got to go back, reformat it. But I digress. Let's go ahead and hear a word from our
writer's point of view.
I know, right?
This podcast is brought to you by Purple. Doesn't it seem like the world's against you from getting a good night's sleep this time of year? Boy, I know. It's summertime. It gets hot. You're over there. You're flipping around in the bed. You can't get comfortable. It's 1,000,000 degrees. You're flipping the pillows. You're still upset. You're sweating all the time. It's disgusting. But when you have a Purple mattress, ladies and gentlemen, you can sleep cool and comfortable no matter what life throws at you. That's because only Purple mattresses have the grid. Its unique ventilated design allows for air to flow through to help you sleep cool, even when it feels like 1,000 degrees out. We know all about Purple because, of course, Joey Noel uses a Purple mattress. She loves it. She says the grid is great, better than foam. And, of course, it has been keeping her cool for quite some time. Try your Purple mattress risk-free with free shipping and free returns. Financing is available too. Purple is comfort reinvented. Right now, you'll get 10% off any order of $200 or more. Go to purple.com/games10 and use the promo code GAMES10. That's purple.com/games10. Promo code GAMES10 for 10% off any order of $200 or more. Purple.com/games10. Promo code GAMES10. Terms apply. Up next is Canva. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that we use Canva here? It's a thing that helps you learn. It helps you figure out how what you're gonna do. Are you working in Photoshop? Are you working in video? Are you doing stuff like Canva's got you covered? That's why Tim's been using Canva Pro. Canva Pro is the easy to use design platform that has everything you need to design like a pro. It's a quick, easy, and affordable way to design whatever you need. No matter what you're creating and sharing, Canva Pro has everything you need in one place, including a collection of over 75 million premium photo, videos, audio, and graphics. Tim's been using this. Roger's been using this. Nick has been using this. Of course, anybody who's making anything at Kind of Funny that's not just screaming into a microphone like me, they need graphics, you need videos, you need to get in there, you need audio like they're talking about. Canva Pro has it all. It's perfect for small creators, big creators, any creator. Design like a pro with Canva Pro. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you use our promo code. That's canva.me/KFGD. canva.me/KFGD. Canva.me/KFGD for more. And our final sponsor of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is Freshly. Dinner time can be chaotic, but with Freshly, it's easy. Their chefs take care of you and your meals for a few nights a week and take the pressure off of you. Freshly offers chef-made, nutrient-packed, delicious meals delivered fresh to your door, no cooking required. Ordering is easy. You visit freshly.com and choose from over 30 delicious, satisfying, better-for-you meals like steak peppercorn, sausage baked penne, or their chicken pesto bowl. Freshly can fit your lifestyle with a variety of plans and meals to pick what you want when you need it. It'll do your dietary needs, preferences, taste, and family size. I still subscribe my father to Freshly. I go through, I pick the little meals on freshly.com, and then he gets them prepared, and he can just take them to work, or when he comes home from work and he's exhausted, he can just pop them in and cook them right there, or warm them up and be ready to eat. No, nothing. He doesn't need to worry about it. Dad doesn't need to cook. Number one crane operator Greg Miller doesn't have time for that. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $40 off your first 2 orders when you go to freshly.com/games. Stop stressing about dinner. Go to freshly.com/games for $40 off your first 2 orders. That's freshly.com/games for $40 off your first 2 orders.
Here we are. All right, let's talk about, speaking of things that are upcoming, we got the new Tom Clancy game Incoming. This was also done on Twitter. Everyone's just putting out these big tweets. And Ubisoft went ahead and put out, tune in at 11 a.m. PT, so just around the corner if you're watching us live, for the worldwide reveal of a brand new Tom Clancy game in the Tom Clancy universe. Tim, what's your read on this?
I'm so sorry. But we come back early. The chat just heard Kevin say he's really hot on Oreos.
Oh, that came through. That's so funny.
There's no context that helps.
We were just, you don't need to know the context.
Bad Boy Baron
I'm really hot on Oreos.
I'm going to click chat to chant that also.
Yeah.
I think it speaks for itself. I mean, I feel like you said what we had all been thinking. And, I'm glad you brought that up, honestly, because I've been dying to talk about it.
God. Yeah. So this is interesting. This Ubisoft situation, the teaser, did you look at it?
Yes.
Very Call of Duty-esque vibe.
I was like, we're shooting. It looks, you could have, I'll be honest, because I don't know shooters like that. So you're going to have to like drop your shooter wisdom on this segment. Watching that clip, I'm like, you could have told me this is a number of games, and I would have been like, yeah, sure. That could have been anything. You could have uploaded footage from just about any shooter, and it would have seemed just like the same deal.
Yeah, and that kind of seems to be the vibe going around, just looking at all the responses on Twitter, both on IGN and on the Ubisoft side. I think this is just, Ubisoft further continuing to do what it's been doing, which is, especially now that it has its Ubisoft Originals brand, right? Like Ubisoft Originals, Tom Clancy's presents, the blah, 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 as many words as you can put in the title as possible. With that, they kind of been building out what a Ubisoft game means over the last 10 years. And for a long time, that kind of meant you go to a tower and it unlocks a part of the map, and et cetera, et cetera. How do we apply that to every genre of video game imaginable? And they've kind of shifted from that into kind of just being like, all right, we are going to make a Ubisoft original version of every genre of game there is, and we're going to try to turn it into a game as a service as much as possible. And that's kind of what Ubisoft game means nowadays. So they've tried with Hyperscape to do their battle royale, right? They've tried with and succeeded with kind of owning the third person open action adventure game with the Assassin's Creed titles as ongoing games as a service type stuff. And I think this is them kind of being like, cool, we don't really have a Call of Duty type shooter, more Black Ops type shooter, and they don't need it, but they certainly could have it. I don't know if this is the right timing for this, especially with Hyperscape not really hitting the way that Apex does or Warzone does. And I don't know if Ubisoft has the moment right now to be able to put this out in the world. But let me say this. I'm surprised this is happening. It makes sense, but I'm surprised it's happening, and I'm very surprised it's happening in the way that it is, where IGN just has this exclusive reveal. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it is kind of unceremonious, which is a little bit odd. Again, maybe this is like a lessen the blows scenario. Like, I think there's like two ways to read it. It's like they weren't that excited to share it, so like let's put it out more casually. Not to downplay IGN revealing gameplay. Like, I think that's totally noteworthy. But again, talking about pulling things out of a formal conference, that's a little bit what the message sends to me. I think also there's a lot of weirdness around Tom Clancy stuff where unless it's what people want, people tend not to really want it, even if they will end up buying it. So I think there's a little bit of that weird push and pull with it, where it's like maybe we can just be a little bit more low key about it, or just take a different angle, have it a little bit slow rolled. This also follows that format of kind of what Skate did, even though Skate didn't have like to show it was a teaser, but where it's like, okay, we're like teasing the bigger thing that's coming out on social, and we're kind of having it be where now you have this on your radar, on your calendar, for stuff to check out. Is there anything you can see from this that would get you excited about it? Like, where's your like excitement level for this game currently?
I am not the audience for this game at all. I am interested in the little Ubisoft tweet reveal where it's like you kind of see the neon colors and shit, where I'm just like, I don't know that this is gonna work. Like, I'm just interested to see how this kind of Tony Hawk's American Wasteland aesthetic is going to translate to a Call of Duty style game. And especially, like, I hate to keep bringing up Hyperscape, but Hyperscape had a similar type of like, hey, here's a crazy neon aesthetic, and it at some point it just feels like we're taking Ubisoft's kind of playing this game where they have like it's kind of like in Super Mario 3 where there's that roulette where it's like there's the star, the flower, and the mushroom, and you have to get the top part, the middle part, and the bottom part, and they kind of just have like 3 different templates, and then they just play that game to figure out what their next game is going to be. It's like, okay, it's a Tom Clancy game, it's a shooter, and it has this neon aesthetic, and it's like, ship it,
Hey, Tim, did you notice that? Is that like, that's a stencil, right? And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of graffiti on top. It's a graffiti game.
Is this Mark Echoes Getting Up too? Tom Clancy's Mark
shit.
Echoes Getting Up too, a Ubisoft original.
Shit. Somebody call Cool Greg.
I saw someone, well, it's like literally going to be revealed in like either now or I think 15 minutes from now, because I saw the IGN post at 11:15.
That's what motherfuckers need to stop
Let's
doing.
keep talking.
They need to stop,
guys.
They need to stop just being like, oh, hey, this debuts at 11, and then at 11 there's a 15-minute countdown, or God, hopefully not an hour countdown. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But
wait, is it being revealed right now?
And early and find out what you think.
Either now or 11:15. IGN's tweet says 11:15, but Ubisoft said 11. So I'm like, who's telling the truth? I'm not sure.
Who's telling the truth?
Who's telling the truth? A little bit of both, a little bit of neither.
I'm most interested. Okay, Tom Clancy's X Defiant.
Defiant?
XD
Sure. We're like
Defiant?
watching it. For those listening, we're like looking at the feed now. Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll be able to, since it's just people talking to the camera. Why does it look like
graffiti,
Rage?
guys? A lot of graffiti.
It looks like Rage 2. Which I actually thought Rage 2 was very basic, but I thought it was kind of decent. Like, I like the vibe of it. But as we vaguely pseudo watch what's going on with Tom Clancy, presumably this Tom Clancy game is far away. If I want to know what was coming to mom and grab shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform is listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily show host each and every weekday, and it looks like this is free to play.
Yeah. Okay. Out today is Wrestling Empire on Switch, Arkanoid Breakout on Switch, Top Gun Air Combat on Switch. It's Switch season out here. Radio Commander on Switch, Yumarito, I think, Nostalgia on Switch, and Grand Prix Racing on Switch. So just get your Switch out, just start downloading stuff. Like, don't ask questions, just start downloading things. Like, you know how the vibes are. Some quick new dates for you. Active Life Outdoor Challenge is coming to Switch September 3rd, 2021. And Auto Chess Season 13 Ocean Voyage launches July 22nd. I didn't put that in there, and I'm hoping that's all one game because it doesn't sound like it would be, but that's how it's written. So TBD on that. Real quick, some deals of the day for y'all. Persona 5 Royal is available on PS4 for just $24.99 on Amazon. Catherine Full Body for Switch is $14.99 at GameStop. And 8-bit Do controllers are currently having a sale on Amazon. Other things are things. Let's take a quick glance at... Actually, Tim, can you check out You're Wrong while I list out tomorrow's hosts?
Of course.
Tomorrow / the upcoming hosts are Tuesday, we got Greg and Gary. Wednesday, we got Blessing and Andy. Thursday, we got Tim and Tamor, aka Tim Tam, coming through. And Friday, it is Greg and Blessing. If you are watching live, we also have Nick, Roger, and Jackie Jing and Fran. There's a lot of ands. Y'all could just put comments in there or dropping into the war zone. And if you want to catch that stream later, subscribe to youtube.com/kindoffunnyplays. Before we sign off, Tim, do we have any You're Wrongs?
The only thing we have is Kebabs is saying the original PS4 was not sold at a loss.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The PS5 is the first PlayStation console to be sold at a loss, right?
Kebabs further says no word
Maybe
on
the
PS4
PS3
Pro
as
or
well.
PS5.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for correcting on that. But on the whole, usually that is the case. But I was surprised to hear that. I thought that one was also sold at launch. So appreciate the correction. All right, now it is time for the post show where supporters at the silver membership or above on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames get this. But until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.